I'm writing this to report a hallucination while on these combined substances. First, a brief overview of the substances. Absinthe, homemade by steeping and straining 1 oz of wormwood and a few tablespoons of calamus, anise, fennel, coriander, and 5 or 6 other herbs that I can't remember in 80-proof vodka. I made this stuff a year or 2 earlier and had stored it in the freezer. These were the last 3 shots in the bottle, and they had been sitting in the sediment for a long time, though I doubt that after a year there was any more extraction going on. I didn't drink the sediment, it makes me sick. I have extensive experience with absinthe. I have made several bottles trying to perfect a recipe for maximum hallucination. I have also sampled 4 different brands. My opinion on the matter is that it will not make me hallucinate unless I get to that point of alcoholism. What happens is I get drunk. If it's good absinthe, it tastes yummy, though it is an acquired taste. And if it is really good, then the drunk will be more lucid and energetic. I have downed twice this amount of Thujone before in 1 gulp, and never hallucinated. Hash made using trimming, fan leaves, and the big thick stems from the plant. 91% isopropyl extraction. This hash is by itself weak. It almost entirely lacks a body buzz, but has a strong anxiety-oriented head high. I would say the headies I usually buy are more potent in both the head and body high. JWH-081, not to be confused with JWH-018. This substance, despite the promising P values, takes a good bit to get high off of. I'm not sure of the purity of this, or even if it is what they say it is. I had bought a gram of it before I bought this particular batch from the same company. The first gram I bought was white in color. This stuff looks like light brown sugar. I also remember the first batch I had being active in the amount that I could fit on a pinhead, 0.5 mg. Tolerance could be a factor. I have OD'd on the first batch but had no hallucinations. AB-001. When I first got this, it was large white translucent crystals. I then tried to dissolve them in isopropyl alcohol, but it didn't work. When the stuff dried out, it was a tan powder with some sparkles. I have never gotten particularly high off this stuff and never hallucinated on it. Other 9 days ago, I tripped on 4 tabs of acid. 2 days later, I ate 1.75 g of shrooms. Then 3 days after that, I had 3.5 g of shrooms. I don't ever trip that frequently, I just had the stuff. I was curious how it would affect me in various states of mind. I will never trip that frequently again. It became familiar and boring. By the time of this experience, the wiggle hallucinations that pop up again when smoking weed or drinking kava had stopped. The experience. I got home from work around 9 a.m. feeling energetic. I've been trying to get to bed before noon, so that when I wake up, it isn't dark for the next 12 hours. I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep without assistance, so I break into the absinthe, hoping to doze off to some TV. I pour out the last of my absinthe into a glass. Out of curiosity, I measure it, 60Z. I add sugar dissolved in warm water. The absinthe was in the freezer, and I know from experience that the sugar would just end up at the bottom of the glass if I didn't do this. I sipped on it for about 20 minutes until I decided that although I was getting drunk, it wouldn't put me out. So I eyeball some JWH-081 and AB-001 and put them in my bowl. On top of that, I add the hash and start baking. Eyeballing RCs has led to many overdoses in myself and others. I smoke and have a typical experience. The body high hits me with a warm, relaxed stiffness. I feel different parts of my brain turn off as I always do. It's a pleasant thing that I associate with smoking weed. I'm not even sure if I got any of the cannabinoids. There was no chemical flavor at all. I also felt like I was drunk and stoned off weed, not this head-high hash and cannabinoids. Everything is going well and normal. My TV show finished, and so did most of my bowl. It's been about an hour and a half since I started. I feel ready to fall asleep, but knowing myself, I load another TV show and go from my bed to my desk to pack another bowl of hash. As I'm doing this, I look over at the jar of water sitting by my bed. It started shrinking, then expanding. I couldn't tell if it was a pint, a quart, or a half gallon. I looked at other objects to try and replicate the effect, but couldn't. When my eyes returned to the jar, the phenomenon continued. I wasn't sure if I was going to OD on spice. I knew I hadn't smoked enough or even quickly enough to OD, but I also knew that when drinking alcohol, it is really easy to OD on spice. Thankfully, I didn't have any tobacco to smoke that can do very bad things when mixed with spice, and even worse when mixed with alcohol as well. I took stock of myself, focused on the jar. I could tell it was a quart jar, and it was staying the same size. I was high and drunk, but only enough to fall asleep. I could have stayed awake if I had wanted to. I took a few hits to see if I would hallucinate more. I didn't, so I went to sleep. Woke up about 9 hours later feeling unrested and oddly enough, my head felt a little stoned, which went away after a half hour or so. I have extensive experience with all of these substances and with combining them, but I have never put them together before. I have never had this particular type of hallucination before, not even when trying to. I know that this report is basically, I got high and drunk, then hallucinated, but the fact that I hallucinated at all is so remarkable that I had wanted to be as specific as possible with my substance list. I don't remember enough detail to really describe the high. It felt like I was drunk and stoned, nothing special.